panelists to agree to join our forum, our webinar tonight. Let me introduce myself. As the host, we are organizing this event for the benefits and after the request from many of the parents in Singapore and Malaysia to really wanting to know more whether or not to send their children to be homeschooled. Okay, so that's why we organize these events for the panelists to share their experience to everyone. So you may want to ask any question. So feel free to write down your question on the chat function in this Zoom or after our sharing session. So feel free to speak out. You can request to raise your hand in the Zoom, or you can on your video to react with our admin team. So if you would like to speak out, feel free to let us know, or you can feel free to write down the question anytime during our session so that we will go through your session during our Q&A period later on. Okay, let me see the participants here because we do have a group expecting joining us and I want to make sure they are here already. Yeah. Okay. All right. Without letting everyone to wait for so long, so I think it's better for us to start now, and the rest will join us accordingly. So it's not good for those who are being on time with us to be waiting for those who are not on time. Huh? Okay, so firstly, once again, thanks for your time to join our webinar this evening. My name is Joseph. I'm the Group CEO for QERA, who organized this event this evening. So QERA is actually an edu-tech platform. So we have been in the market for the past 15 years. So our main role and vision is to connect the course providers, all kinds of educators and institutions to the students using very unique referral system. Of course, for the past 15, 16 years, so my team and I, we have been always asked on a lot of questions and the feedback on educational related subject matters. So homeschooling is one of the very big and commonly asked questions. Together with me tonight, we have Mr. Adrian Tay, who is our Group Chief Marketing Officer. So he's operating in Singapore. So we will be throwing, I would like to use the words, of course, we will be asking some of the questions to our panelists, invited panelists tonight, to let our audience to hear from their sharing on being through the homeschooling subject matter, whether from an educator point of view, from a parent's point of view, from a psychologist's point of view, and from a student point of view. Okay, so before we introduce them one by one, of course, I would like to welcome them on board tonight. So they are Dr. Ng, they are Bernard and John, Miss Vivian, Miss Raquel, and Michael. So for the remaining time, I will just pass to Adrian to introduce them. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. All right, tonight we have an exciting panel of views. All right, from, you can call them expert views because they are directly involved in homeschooling. All right, I've been running a tuition center for many years before I stopped and joined QERA as their regional director. And along my education journey, there's always been questions about homeschooling. All right, and we come across parents, we come across kids, we come across questions. What are the advantages, disadvantages of homeschooling and all. So today you'll hear it yourself from those directly involved. Okay, so let me introduce the panel, our panelists. First, we have Dr. Minglik, a well sought after educational psychologist with a PhD in psychology. All right, his views and approach are well received on TV, radio, as well as newspapers throughout Southeast Asia and China. All right, you wouldn't want to miss his expert view. And joining him will be Rachel Salinas, a parent who has been homeschooling her 3 daughters since the COVID lockdown. That is about 2 years. All right, she will share with you the challenges on homeschooling 3 children. Right, you don't want to miss that too. And next is another parent joining us is Vivian Quack. All right, she's a mother of 3 children. All right, she has even published a book on parenting. She will share her experience on homeschooling her first 2 children and then had her 3rd child go to a regular school. And then what we have on the student side, okay, is John Teo, all right, a young man who has experienced homeschooling and had a brief stint in a public school. All right, he will share his views from the student point of view. And not all, from Malaysia side, across the causeway, we have Mr. Michael Wong, who will offer his views on the recent development in homeschooling in Malaysia, as well as the direction many homeschool educators and parents are heading. All right. Unfortunately, he won't be joined by his son today. All right, but he will give his opinions and his views. And lastly, we have Mr. Bernard Ng, a business owner in the education industry. He owns a tuition center, education center. He has personal experience in teaching a homeschool student all the way towards a place in the university. All right, he will share the differences and the challenges of homeschooling from the perspective of an educator. All right, so now I throw the field open. Let us all listen to the expert views here.
Thank you, Adrian. So I'm sure the audience will be very exciting now to hear the view from all our panelists. So before I start, can I request everyone who are just newly joined to off your video and audio for the time being, and all the panelists, can you please on your video? So, okay, so that everyone can see you. Okay. So when we actually discuss the topic on homeschooling, perhaps some were actually asking, what is homeschooling about? So in general, we are talking about anyone who are educating their children who are at the so-called the legal student age outside the traditional public or private school system is what we call homeschooling children. So in Singapore and Malaysia, they are slightly different in terms of the homeschooling definition, because in Malaysia, there are quite a lot of private centers running as a homeschooling center. So anyhow, the focus and the perspective is getting the student to be educated by parents at home or any centers outside the traditional school system. So this is what we call the homeschooling. Today, we will be focusing on the few frequently asked questions, a very popular question for us parents, for students who are thinking of going through the homeschooling structure. So like what I have highlighted just now, my team and I, like Adrian and us, we have been in the education industry for the past over 20 years. So we have always been asked by parents and students whether homeschooling is suitable for them. As an education counselor, as an educator myself, I always would like to highlight to everyone out there, so there isn't any best education system, but it is important for us to know ourselves and our children to determine what is more suitable for them. So over here today, before we start officially, I would just to highlight a very important message and disclaimer. So this evening, tonight, it is an open sharing session. We are not here to discuss about which education system or which school is better than the others. So please make this very clear for everyone. So we are not here to tell you whether homeschooling is good or not good. So it is purely an experience sharing session for every one of you who want to know more anything related to homeschooling. And of course, very importantly, we will not be discussing on the current school system, whether public or private. Likewise, anything related to racial or religious issues pertaining to education system. So I just want to make sure this is clear to everybody. All right. Okay. Without further ado, let's start with some of the very, very important questions and the topics that everyone is asking when it comes to homeschooling. Like the topic spells tonight, we are discussing on the myth and the facts. So the most crucial stakeholders, the party concerned within homeschooling subject matter here are our parents. So most of the parents, when they are thinking of whether to let their children to go through homeschool system, so it is always few very crucial and important questions that came into their mind, including myself, to be very honest. So I have 3 children. Anyway, our panelists here today will share their experience, their knowledge, and their insight on what they have actually came across by educating their children at home. So like what Adrian has highlighted just now, we have a couple of parents here with us tonight actually. Yeah? So we have Miss Vivian, Miss Raquel, and Michael from Malaysia. And of course, the educator and the psychological point of view can answer this question also. So first question, why did you actually choose homeschooling for your children? This is very, very common question. Okay, so especially for Vivian and Raquel, both of you have 3 children like me. Okay, and Raquel has homeschooled 3 of your children. Okay, can we get some of your sharing? Can we start with Vivian, perhaps? Can you share your experience? Why at the very first place you choose homeschooling? Okay,
thank you. So let me introduce myself. I'm Vivian. I have 3 children. My oldest is 19. Then my second one will be 17. And my youngest is now in primary 3 in regular school. So I've homeschooled my first 2 older children simply because my eldest son, my son, who's the eldest, asked me to keep him at home so that he will learn more. At that time, we were actually staying in the US, and we didn't know it then, but he was finding school very boring, and he was in kindergarten in the US, and the hours were very long, from 9 to 3. And so he found that he was spending a lot of time in school, but he wasn't learning enough. And they were teaching him things. They were insisting that he did things that he didn't enjoy, like coloring. He wanted to learn about science. He wanted to learn about math, but in kindergarten, they don't do that. So he asked me to keep him at home. And so that was when I started researching about homeschooling. And then later we discovered that he was tested to be highly gifted. And of course, we tried to work with the school, and the school system was not able to cater to his needs and what he wants to learn. So I decided then, after a year of research, to pull him up from school. And that was when we started homeschooling back in 2009. So he was 7 at that time. So we've been homeschooling all the way. And like I said, he's now 19 years old, and he's been home all this while. My number 2 has never been to school all the way. She followed the brother since she was 4 years old. So, since I was homeschooling my older one, so I just, did it together. Yeah, so that was why we chose homeschooling in the first place, because the school was not meeting their needs. And I discovered that there are actually a lot of ways to homeschool. There are many philosophies behind it. And I was quite determined not to do school at home, because that to me is, I'm quite purist and quite idealist. So I don't want to replicate a school system at home where, we have a timetable, we follow and do all the things according to the textbook and all that. But I wanted them to do life learning, world learning. So we learn actually a lot of things that is not covered in schools. We learn history, we learn geography, we learn social studies, we learn daily, how to make butter from cream and things like that. So we learn a whole array of different things, and I find that is the wealth of homeschooling from a purist perspective in that sense. Yeah, and we had a great time. I was sharing with the panelists earlier that I see homeschooling as an extension of parenting. So it's really no different as a parent to teach, because from young we teach our children manners, we teach our children how to hygiene and things like that. So when it comes to learning about life skills, about knowledge, it's just a natural extension, and I find that it's easier. Whereas for my third one, because she goes to school, I find that it's harder to teach her because she doesn't see me as a teacher character. My older two is easy because they've seen me as a teacher character from young, so it's very easy to teach. Whereas I have to convince my younger one that I'm a teacher and that I can teach her, and so that's the dynamics is a little bit different and quite interesting. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting, because what we are hearing actually, it's your children are requesting to be studying at home. This is something very unique. I think most of the Asian children were not able to really tell the parents that way. Anyway, can we have Ms. Raquel to have some of your experience sharing over here? So as a parent of 3, and how do you actually make sure you are the teacher at home also, like what Vivian was saying just now?
Hello everyone. So I am currently in Singapore, and I have 3 daughters. My oldest is 14, and then I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And we started teaching them 2 years ago. And one of the reasons why we started teaching them is because we travel around the world, and we wanted to be closer as a family. My husband was traveling and spending a lot of time overseas. So with the homeschooling, we could then join him and be closer. So just like Vivian was saying, I think it's really important that we wanted them not to be just feeding them information. Obviously, we want to be prepared as parents to be the teachers and to have the information that they need. But I think it's really important that just like the kids, they look up to teachers, they have to also look up to us as role models. And we can combine it with the life skills, because that's really important, that since we have the time, we can actually teach them double, right? We teach them the information and we actually teach them the life skills, because I feel like sometimes the teachers are not able to do that. They're not able to individualize the education, but we as parents, we're lucky, right? We can do both.
Okay, interesting. So how do you make sure you are equipped on what a teacher is supposed to?
So that's a good question. So I don't worry so much about equipping them. I mean, I like to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher as well. So I think for myself, it's just natural. So I study a lot myself. I'm actually going back to school. So for me, teaching them is quite natural, but I worry more about being a role model. But if we talk specifically about preparing, I do have to have a lot of time before I actually sit down with them to do the schoolwork, because I have to make it interesting for them. It's not just about me reading and actually doing the homework with them. I have to actually be prepared to make it interesting so they can actually pay attention to me, because otherwise it's very boring for them. So I just have to have a lot of time to prepare before I actually sit down with them.
So this question to both of you, Vivian and Raquel, did you send your children for extra academic class to support their progression? So no, Vivian has shaken your head.
Not for me, because both my husband and myself, my husband is actually a lecturer with the university. So both of us are quite well-versed with a lot of the subjects that we need to teach. And a lot of times, especially new things, like history and geography, there are things that are new and I learn with the kids. Of course, I have to learn in advance, like what Raquel was saying, we have to prepare the lessons in advance. So I will be doing my research before and then putting the program together and teaching. But I think the interesting thing for us homeschoolers is that we don't teach just our own children, especially when they're young. A lot of it is teaching with the community. So we form what we call cooperatives or co-ops, And then we have parents taking turns to teach different things. So we leverage on each other's skills so that we are not always the only teacher, and our children are used to having other adults teach them as well. And they get to interact with children from different ages. So for the same class, a history class, for example, we could have children ranging from the age of 12, and the youngest could be like 8 years old or 6 years old. And then, you know, the children take what they can, and then as educators, we will have activities that will be able to cater to different age groups. And that makes the learning fun, because the younger ones look up to the older ones to learn from them. And then the older ones are able to you know, nurture the younger ones and be kind and make sure that the younger ones are being helped along, or they will explain to them, which improves their learning as well. So in that sense, as teachers, we are not the only sole teachers. We do a lot of cooperative work with other parents within the community.
I see. What about you, 𝐷𝒂𝒃? So did you get any extra help from external tutor or teachers?
No, not at this point. My husband also, he loves teaching, so he's supporting the girls as well. And he's, you know, we're kind of designated. He's the math teacher, and I'm the science and English teacher. So he loves math, so he teaches math. I love science. So we don't at the moment have the need to get a tutor or get any extra help. But within the family, like Vivian says, we have sort of like a village, right? Yes. The oldest one, which is 14, is teaching the youngest one, and she finds that her homework is really easy. So we're also teaching the oldest one to be a teacher, to be a role model within the family. So we become a lot closer as a family because we depend on each other for our education, and then the oldest gets more responsibility towards the younger ones. So it works well, and so far we haven't had the need to go outside of that.
I see. But what I'm hearing actually, in order to be qualified as a homeschooler, so the parents will have to, first of all, love teaching and have the right education background in order to deliver the right knowledge to the children. So that's come with the role play over here as a parent as well as a teacher. So this is tough actually. So like what I say, I myself have 3 children. I always wanted to have a good relationship with them as a parent, but I also want to teach them in many aspects, in many areas, to be very honest. That is actually a very struggling role to play between teacher and a parent. So can we get Dr. Ng to really especially highlight a little bit on his insight from a psychological point of view, parents and the teacher. So if we really choose to go for homeschooling, will it be a very struggling issue?
I will salute to both parents that you can do both role as teacher and parents. You know, as a doctor, when they do operation, they will never dare to operate for their own family members. Cannot. To the rest of the patient, is just a meat. For his relative, cannot. He just can't do it. Of course, there are some exceptional cases for parents to be teachers. Some parents cannot play the role as parents and teacher because the emotion is attached. When you teach a student, it's easy. You know, like you don't know, never mind, I just get my pay. But for parents, no. Hey, you better know, you cannot, you must know. Then our emotions stir up because we cannot take it. How can you don't learn? I already teach you, pay attention. And all this will stir up. So if parents can serve as a teacher, I really salute them. But of course, some parents can do it. They can separate the 2 roles. Then it's okay. And some really have hard time to do that. But good news is as we teach along and when we can handle our emotion, as teacher will be better. And in the school system started in 19th century. At the end of 20th century, lots of parents have doubted the system may not right. So that's why homeschooling started. And but now I think some parents just wanted to escape from the pressure from school. So I go homeschooling. So unless we have a right motive, or else you may go to the wrong direction. I think education is necessary. Okay, to use school system or use home system, it's all depend on your background, your resources. Like these two parents, they have very good resources. They have no problem. They can just start the whole system. But maybe some of the parents may not able to have that. So they have to think of a way how to get help. So Bernard will be maybe is the right person to go and seek help. I can't teach maths, so can you send? Can I send my child there? And then they can learn. So I think parents have to be careful to select whether to go homeschooling or school system. Both have their good point and bad point. As a school, the teacher are well trained, or they will know how to deliver all the knowledge. So the system is set and the certificate is recognized. At homeschooling, we have difficulties because we don't have certificate. If certificate signed by mother or father not recognized, so then we need to have backup. We have to send them for another way to get the certification, and then in order to get the cert, because the company will need a cert to certify. You say you are qualified as a doctor. You trained by my father trained me. Cannot. Last time can. Chinese physician, where you come from? Oh, my father. What is your father's name? Oh, this one can. Your father is famous. Can qualify, but now cannot. So I think parents have to be careful and to choose which path to go.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
If I may add, because my
Sure.
son is now 19 years old, and like I said, he's kind of special. He's not a regular kid, highly gifted, right? So for him, homeschooling basically frees us up from the routine that schools have, and you have to go step by step. So he's able to learn as fast as he can in areas that he enjoys and he's very strong at. So for example, he likes coding, and he picks up coding on his own. Both of my husband and myself, we don't know anything about coding. So he's able, because we homeschool, he has the time to go and tinker with programming from a very young age. From 10 years old, he was programming games and he was coding and creating things, on his own, and learning and decoding, his algorithms and stuff like that. And by the time he was 13 years old, I was able to get him to sit in as a student, not a really a matriculated student, but like a audit student attending NUS programming school of what do you call that, School of Computing at NUS. So he attended class together with the undergrads when he was 13 years old, and that he is able to do that because of the homeschooling flexibility that we have. And even though he doesn't have official cert or a degree from NUS, for example, he was actually invited to be an intern for a company and to code for the company, and subsequently they liked him enough to convert his internship into a full-time staff, and he worked full-time for them for almost a year. So I think it is scary because right now that avenue has closed, And so of course, then we say, okay, so now what we probably need to look at certs. So like what Dr. Ng is saying, yeah, no, now we need to look at certs. And then today we sat through and we looked at what are the qualifications for A levels. And then he says, okay, I look at all these subjects, I can do all this, even though he didn't study for it, but because our homeschool environment has allowed him to explore and learn in a lot of different areas, he has that knowledge that he's able to tackle the papers that is A level. So he didn't spend 4 years studying for O levels and 2 years studying the textbook and all that, but based on whatever he has learned on his own, he's able to say, okay, I look at all this, I can do the paper, I can sit for the exam at the end of this year. So I think that is the flexibility that we have as well.
Okay, great. So what we are hearing here is actually whatever system it is, whether homeschooling or traditional school system, is very much determined and depending on the individual's suitability. It's very, very subjective. So that's why, like what Dr. Ng was mentioning, parents will have to really be very, very cautious and fully aware what is more suitable, what is better for the children. So before any educators, before any teachers can teach our children, so we as a parent must know how and what is better for them. So carry on from our previous discussion, our previous question just now. So like we all know, Bernard has been teaching, has been guiding some of the homeschool children. So like what we have highlighting just now, we have a very capable parents here as our panelists. They didn't send their children for extra tutoring or support, but Bernard has been helping and guiding some of the homeschool students to go through a more formal examination. So Bernard, what is your view over here? So based on your teaching experience with all these homeschool students, whether they are, I wouldn't say they are better or not, okay? But what is your general feedback after your teaching of the public school students and the homeschool students? But sorry, Bernard, are you?
Yeah, no, because it was muted earlier.
Sure.
So from my experience, I think that, homeschool kids could be actually very bright. And to be honest, I think that there is a lot of free play, a lot of freedom to design the curriculum, the content, the pace, the timing of learning for the child. But I think at the end of the day, it's also important, the vision, as a signaling function, as an economist by training. I believe that there's a need, to signal to your potential employers that, hey, I'm good, and obviously that can only be done through this formalized certification process. So while yes, I think that it is good for somebody who needs to customize learning for their children, homeschooling is great. And obviously with the parents who are able and willing to take up that teaching role and are able to execute it well, I have to say that homeschool kids very well. In fact, the top student at for my school's private A levels prep course, the homeschool kid was actually the top student. Okay, in Singapore, junior college, it's basically 2 years before the child takes A levels. So over at my center, we offer it on a 10-month program. So within the 10 months, we cover the 2 years work. So it's highly intensive, very challenging. And this homeschool kid who taught the school last year, he scored an A for H2 math, B for H2 economics, and then he also scored an A for general paper in 10 months. Bearing in mind that the best in Singapore takes it in 2 years. So in a mere 10 months, he achieved grades that were even better than some of my students who were in the JCs. So I would say that it really depends on the individual. I mean, every child is unique. Like some of the parents were shared, their child are probably more exceptional. So, they can speed up the pace of learning. So homeschooling can be very good, okay, for those who prefer to have learning at their own pace. Of course, over at my side, we have got parents who come to us because the child cannot cope with the schools. And there are also cases where, I've seen some who are homeschooled, straight A's, okay, 5 A funds for O levels. Homeschool, I was really surprised. Okay, but first for that child, the parents, I think the dad has a master's degree, so no issues. Up to O levels, I think they are pretty comfortable. But beyond the O levels, I think the parents perhaps felt a bit they were very hope their children well enough to get in prestigious university. So they start looking at private education to help them, or rather help the kids excel in the A levels. So A levels is a little bit different. I always tell parents that it's advanced, or even my students for that matter. When you take O levels, well, it's ordinary. Now that you're at the advanced level, you're no longer ordinary. You need advanced techniques. You need advanced presentation. So how do you improve in terms of study skills, exam skills? So of course, I'm not saying that you can't self-study. I actually have students who self-study A levels, polytechnic students, and they actually cleared the A levels. They passed everything on their own. And I was really surprised. Okay, but what's interesting is that these polytechnic students who have decided to self-study, they were not able to get many distinctions. They passed with a C, and that's it. They can't get an A, can't get a B. So when they retake the A levels with me, and when they attend my class, and then they would tell me that, oh, now I know why I didn't get my A or I didn't get my B for economics, because I didn't know that I needed to do this or I needed to do that. So yeah, it really depends on the individual. So homeschooling can be potentially challenging because of the unstructured, not say unstructured, I mean, it really depends, on how the parents structure it or how the curriculums plan. So for me, my take is always, it really depends on the individual. Yeah. So I had the pleasure of teaching a very obedient, very hardworking, extremely hardworking rather. In fact, this student was so hardworking that I basically told him, you need to submit one essay, he submitted 2, okay, every week. So it is very surprising, like the amount of work that it gives me, like submitted 7 pieces of work at one go. So I was like, can you like send it regularly? Don't store power and then 𝐐𝐄𝐑𝐀 everything out at one go. And then yeah, so it's yeah, like I said, it really depends on the individual. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bernard. So we can see here, like what you said, we need to have a very disciplined children as well as a very structured and disciplined parents as well. So of course, with the help of some of the external support like Bernard and other centers. So we are talking about result excellence over here. Talking about result achievement, of course, my colleague Adrian is actually in tutoring business for a long time. So perhaps Adrian, you have anything to add on this matter?
Well, to me, every child is gifted. All right, it's just that in what ways the child is gifted. So as an educator, as a tutor, what we do is we try to bring out the best in every kid. All right, but some kids may not be too academically inclined, but their talent could lie elsewhere. Like Vivian's, her son is in coding, So I believe every kid has a potential to excel. So it's just as an educator, how do we discover it? How do we bring it their potential to the max? That's my view.
All right, all right. Thank you, thank you. So we have heard a lot from parents' point of view in terms of sending their children to go through traditional or homeschool system. So can we get some student point of view here? Okay, so let me go back. So as you all can see here, the students, the popular question related to students in terms of homeschooling. So whether the students are really able to cope or to achieve better academic result or better achievement in life, if they're really going through a homeschool or traditional school system and things like that. So this is always being some of the top topics or the question being asked by the parents and the students. And together with us here tonight, we have what we call young adult being through a homeschool system, John Teo, who has been through a homeschool and underwent the university system now, right? If I'm not wrong. So, okay, apart from listening from John, of course, we want to listen from parents and every educator also what their view in terms of their children performance when they're actually going through the homeschool system. But of course, let's get John to really firstly to speak out, to really share his experience as a student who has been through the homeschool system. So what is his overall feeling in terms of his lifestyle experience as a student being homeschooled? And the question just now that I asked the parents, whether you see your parents as a teacher more or a father, mother more. You see, so that this is a relationship question as well as education question. So John, can you share a little bit of your experience before?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm John. I've been homeschooled all my life. I went to public school for 6 months and secondary one when I was 13. And then I graduated in 2018. I served my national service. And currently, I'll be starting my university journey this year in August. So as to the question of whether I see my parents as, like, do I see them as teachers or parents or both? I would say that definitely, like, first of all, they're my parents and that is like their primary job. But I don't really see them as teachers, more of like educators, because teaching often has that connotation of it just being related to academic subjects. When in reality, my parents, they don't just, that is not the only thing that they are guiding me in. I mean, there's so many other aspects, like how do you do practical things like cooking, handling of finances, even things like sports, coaching sports, or that kind of things. These are things that are outside the scope of what teachers outside be doing. So I think I'll broaden the term to not just be that they're not just teachers, but they're educators as well.
Okay, okay, thanks, John. So for the past years, when you are being homeschooled, do you feel yourself having a privilege to be a homeschool student, or you think you are missing out something?
I think during the early years when I was homeschooling, I felt that I was missing out on things. But as someone who's a lot older, having gone through my whole high school education being homeschooled, I really see that homeschooling is really a privilege that not many people get to have, because of how flexible my schedule is. I have so much more opportunities open to me that students in school may not be able to pursue because of how busy or how they have other commitments that the school places on them, that even though that they may not be interested in, but because that is what the school says that you have to do. So that is something that the students are tied down by, that if they have a choice, they may not want to do it. So I think it's really great that I've had the opportunity to pursue so many different things I could. take part in different competitions. I could do different projects. I could learn things that I was interested in, such as media, photography, videography. Yeah.
Okay, great. If you don't mind, I go for further a few other questions, because I'm a curious parent also,
Sure.
or wanting to know more about as a homeschool children like yourself. How do you see your friends network now? Do you have a lot of activities that you're actually involving with your peers, your so-called the friends among you?
Yeah, I did engage in several things. When I was younger, I did play a lot of sports. I played soccer, I played netball, I did dragon boating, kayaking. I'm a very outdoorsy person, so I enjoy all these things. So I could play all these different kinds of sports and take part in all these different kinds of nature-related activities. So did different projects. So for 2 years, I did this project where a group of us homeschoolers, we came together to raise funds for some non-government organizations. So those charity organizations, we got the opportunity to raise funds for them. So we had to create campaigns and sell things in order to raise funds and awareness for them. And the great thing about homeschooling is that you are not restricted to just the existing communities. You are free to, create the communities that you want to see. So for example, I am very passionate about photography, and
I think the line was not good over there. So just being cut off. Or it's just myself.
No,
So
I think
I think his
frozen,
line
yeah.
was not good.
Oh, he's back.
do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, John. Yeah, carry on,
All
please.
right, cool. Yeah, so I was saying that the nice thing about homeschooling is that you can create community.
So can I
Is that you're
know?
not restricted to whatever is photography.
Yeah, sure. You can still hear us, right, John?
Yeah.
Okay. So can I know, are all those activities actually planned by your parents, or you are actually got to go for extra mile that you work out extra in order to join any kind of activities that you would like? Are you still with us, John? Okay, anyway, since John is actually somehow off the line, so can we get Vivian and Raquel to really feedback on this as well as a parent? So did you actually work out or plan a lot of extracurriculum activities for your children when they were homeschooled? So maybe Raquel, can you share with us what kind of activities that you actually plan for all of your children?
Sorry, I was muted. So we were traveling around the world, so that was quite nice. When we were in Thailand, the girls were doing rock climbing, and so that was really like the student was saying. It was really nice that we were able to expose them to different things that they liked. So when it came to extracurriculum, they chose what they wanted, and they chose different extracurriculums that way that they knew which ones they liked. So they ended up, loving the rock climbing. The youngest one, she loves arts. So she's able to just do artistic stuff. So I leave them to be independent when it comes to that, because I want them to sort of have that autonomy where they can choose the extracurriculum, and it's not so rigid like in school where they choose every subject for you. And I think that gives them a sort of independence that the homeschooling brings.
I see. What about you, Vivian?
Both my older two were very active in Scouts. So from the time, I think my kids were in Scouts from the time they were, my son was in Scouts since 5 years old, and all the way till he turned 18. So he became an Eagle Scout. He was part of the Boy Scouts of America. So we followed the Boy Scouts of America curriculum, and then he joined a Boy Scouts group from the Singapore American School. And so, you know, he graduated being a Boy Scout as an Eagle Scout. And so that was his main CCA, so to speak. And then for my second one, also Scouts from the time we came back to Singapore. So maybe about 9 years old, she's 8 years old, she started joining Scouts, and then all the way to P6. And then in secondary years, started getting very interested in kayaking. So she was invited, so I let her try out kayaking and they like it. And then, so now that's their full-time sport. They go training about 6 times a week, you know, doing kayaking. And of course, like Raquel's daughter, love art. And so always asking for art avenues to learn more art. So we also have classes out of LaSalle that is organized for homeschoolers. So we have a group of homeschooling teens who go to LaSalle for art classes.
I see. Thanks. Since John is back, so John can hear us, right? So we were actually asking you a question and would like to hear from you. So your activities beyond your academic achievement and study, so are they pre-planned or arranged by your parents mostly, or you are the one actually to really work out yourself on what you like? That's why you go for to research and to join the activities that you would like to go for.
Yep. So starting out, I was mostly my parents who arranged these activities for me because I wasn't aware of what was available, and I also wasn't like connected as much with the other homeschoolers. But then as I grew older, I learned more about what I enjoyed, what I liked. Then I also knew what were the resources available, who are people that I could connect with if I was interested in whatever things. And then after that, so that I started to connect and create more of these own activities by myself. So gradually is moving away from relying on my parents to find these activities, and then after that finding it out by myself.
All right. Good. So as we all know, education is not just about academic or result or achievement. So it's very much into what we call the all-rounded interpersonal skill development, life skill development, and things like that. So perhaps we can get Dr. Ng to share with us on something in terms of the interpersonal development, whether children who are not too much exposed to so-called we call it crowded public school system, comparing to a more homeschool system, meaning to say they have more peer friends around them or less friends around them. Will that make kind of like an impact on their so-called development in their life, both personal and skill and lifestyle? Yeah, Dr. Ng?
Yeah, that is a big topic. To be successful in life, it may not only you need academic, you need some knowledge. That one is important to get a job. But to be successful, whether in your job, in your relationship, I think characters have to come in. So when they have good value, they have good moral and characters, it helps them. Recently, Singapore, there is one maid that the boss wanted to send her back, but she was so good. The boss even write a recommendation and publish in the newspaper. A lot of people want to get this maid. So it is not that when you have knowledge, then or you have certificate, then you'll be successful. And of course, in Singapore recently, we read a lot of news, professor or lecturer or whatever lah. Then they go and take some picture that is not supposed to take. They get into trouble. So a life successful, it needs more than academic. And sad to say that school is hardly function in this area. This is a fact. I'm not criticizing anything, but it is a fact. It may created by parents. So sometimes parents we need to reflect ourselves. When our child having discipline problem, you come back, or I give you a real one. My daughter now teaching in US. She said a parents tell her friends as a teacher to scold her son because he's not handing up the homework. So the teacher go and scold the son. The son went back and complained to the mother. Wow, today teacher scolded me. You have to go and complain. And then the mother go and complain to the principal. So my daughter friends got scolded for nothing. I think this is very common in lots of schools. So most of the teacher will withdraw. I will teach you ABC, all the knowledge. Other than that, well, it's up to you. If you want to behave like that, go ahead. So they will not help us to help in their characters, their moral. And this is bad. And I think maybe it's created by parents. So that's why parenting skill is important. Yeah, sometimes it's teacher's fault, sometimes it's children's fault. But as parents, they must know how to handle. Last time, as Chinese, when we scolded a person, you are not educated, 你没读书. It means that you are not morally right. You don't have moral at all. 没读书. And now maybe it's not like that. No, he have degree, he have doctorate degree, but he may not have good value or moral. So I think something is lacking. That's why a lot of parents have discouraged. They think of, well, we should do education ourselves. But then, unless we have parents like our two parents, well, they are super. They have ground to do that. They have some resources to do that. So then how? If we can't do it, we still need to send our children to school. So parents, we need to realize that certain things that we need to cooperate with the school, and we need to input something more important other than knowledge, which school is doing very well. But moral, value, all this as parents, I think we need to do our part. Then we can balance it. So when a child he's humble, he's not proud, he will reduce a lot of trouble. When he go to work, he's so proud, nobody like him, even though he have a doctorate degree. You are very hard to survive there. And so I think whether we go to which system, school, tradition school or homeschool, both have to check balance, both academic and moral have to be together. And of course, other than that, now we have a lot of people teaching us on EQ to manage their emotion. And of course, it can, then we can help them with more skill. So I think this is a very big topic. I just highlight a few points as parents. So we need to be careful so that when we bring out our child, he can face the challenge. But parents now are overprotecting our children. Now the parent is like the Aladdin, the genius. Your wish is my command. So whatever the child wants, we will fulfill. But life is not like that. When they go out there, then they feel that, wow, It's not like that, no. I love the girl, but the girl may not love me. Oh, I think son, then you go and commit suicide. He cannot take the challenges. So we need to equip other area, because I think now school system mainly they only educate them with the academic. Other than that, maybe the lack of time or effort or encouragement to do that.
Sure. Thank you,
Be careful.
So, like what you say, this is certainly a very, very big topic. If you really want to talk about the bringing out of the children of the proper education system, the parents and the teacher role to really contribute to their whole life success achievement, that is huge topic. So, as an educator, as all of us, as a parents as well. In this aspect, I think we will need a long time to discuss about it, and there's no perfect way and system. But anyway, so back to our discussion point today. Before, I would like to invite Michael Wong from Malaysia across the border to speak out a little bit in terms of his experience as a parent and the homeschool children that he has. So there's one question, very interesting question from our audience to John Teo, asking about whether after being homeschooled for a couple of years, so how do you think is yours, if you read through the chat group function there, how is your social skills now? Will that affect your social skills because you're homeschooled? And how do you miss your, I wouldn't say just girls or guys kind of relationship. It's back to the questions that we have discussed just now, whether you miss your so-called the adolescent process to mix around with your peer, whether they are girls or boys. So do you think you are somehow lack of social skills because being homeschooled, or you've never seen there's an issue at all because you're still making a lot of friends around you? So John, would you like to say something?
Yep. So definitely my social skills have been affected in a positive way. I get to meet so many different people through homeschooling, not just locals, not just Singaporeans, but people from all over the place. I have friends in the homeschool community from the US, from places like New Zealand, Malaysia, all over the world really. So I do that. I learn so many more things about them. I'm not just restricted to seeing like the national perspective on issues, but I get to learn from these other people about how they view certain issues in their country, and it can be so different from the way that we view things in Singapore or Malaysia as well. Not only do I interact with people my own age, I get to interact with people who are in the workforce, people who are professionals in their fields, which is something that is very valuable to me because as like that is where we are going to be eventually going to be out working. So being able to converse and learn about what the industry is like, what working life is like, I think is really, really valuable to me. And definitely I don't have a lack of friends who are my age. There are so many activities for us to take part in, to get to know each other. And even like what is not like, even if there is not a lot of people, like we don't have like big large scale events, but it's made up for in the quality of friendships that we have, that we can really be authentic and real with each other. We grew up together and we just get to this deep friendship. We have the ability and the opportunity to form these deep friendships with each other, and that's really what I think is the most important.
Great. Thanks, John. So correct me if I'm wrong, actually. So basically the homeschooling community, the children, the parents, and the tutors. So not just having a national, but international community. So they are supporting each other, they are meeting, they are discussing, they are expressing their issue, then their feedback and comment to each other around the world. So that's why the homeschooling community is never being alone. It's not just the parents and the children and they're just seeing each other one eye to eye kind of communication and the lifestyle. So it is talking about the whole international and national interaction and activities among the whole homeschooling community. So likewise, so we are talking about in Singapore as well as Malaysia, just close to each other. So we have the Singapore and Malaysia's homeschooling community, and they are all interrelated as well, like what John was saying. So he has a lot of friends from Malaysia as well. So tonight with us, actually, we have parents who are actually involving hugely in homeschooling system from Malaysia. So across the border in Skudai. So Michael Wong. So he has children been through homeschool and he himself involving in the homeschool community in Malaysia. So can we get Michael to say something to give his opinion in terms of homeschool as a parent and his children who are actually growing up now? Michael, Lai?
Yeah, all his panel and all his parents here. I'm sorry because just now my local electric current is stopped down 30 minutes. So I lost 30 minutes here.
No problem, no problem. So we have you back here now, no problem.
Yeah. I have my actually I am Chinese educated and I less to speak in English, but I try my best to speak a very slowly one and all can understand.
No problem. This is the spirit of education. So,
yeah. Yeah. I have two sons. They attend from from the kindergarten. They homeschool, and until now, my elder son already graduate. Now is at the Sec 2 lah. Oh, my later one, now is primary 1. My little one, primary 1, now is attend the government school. So I am also is same as Vivian, right? Yeah. So actually, why I will start with the homeschool because my since 2000 years I start social work. I helping the teenagers who is drop out from the school. So when we run this social work, firstly we send them to the school, government school. After 6 months, the school teacher and the headmaster, they suggest us to teach them ourselves. So we start to run the learning center to help them. The first thing, actually, that 20 years ago, the homeschool is not common in Malaysia. So we start introduced by one friends. Actually, the syllabus is from the American one. Name is Alpha Omega. Yeah. So and we start for 4 years. After 4 years, we realized that that is very good for them to take this. But most of them is very low learner, so they feel that so discouraged when they are learn, and same with their age is not balanced. So afterward we change it to become, we use the homeschool method and we run for them to start the schooling. And my 2 sons, actually they start is with us. So afterward, we send them to the homeschool who is nearby at JB here. So the homeschool center also is run with Alpha Omega 1. So we compare with it. After 8 years, we start the school, maybe 2009. So we feel that we change a bit. We change a bit if we use the same way to teach the homeschooling method, but the syllabus is a local SPM, teach them like tuition, and we give them to studies. And I can compare with my son and our running way, the way we running. Actually, I feel that the homeschool help my son. He can self-learning. This is very important one. He can self-learning. Until now, he also self-learning to learn graphic design, computer, and anything like a scientist exposure and other thing, chemical, bio. He also learn from the. He can self-learning. Actually, he take the exam also is self-learning one. So the second thing, I feel that is very mature. The way he think is not like our. Actually, my education is from the government. So our thing is logic by logic, logic by logic. He can think other way to catch up our logic thinking. This is a very attractive me. Sometimes he can say, oh, his idea is better than me. Actually, he can jump from the circle one. This when I send now I send him to this homeschool program. I never degrade one. Yes. And our center, at our center, our student, we use this homeschool link system to teach them with the government syllabus. We also realize that they're very smart than actually in the government school. They were discouraged by the others, but here they feel safe to learn.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael.
Yes.
If we talk more, so we will discuss a lot more on the Malaysian education system already. So we try to not to involve into that. Okay.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Fine. But just further question. So did you homeschool and teach your own children, or you basically give to the homeschool center the tutors, outside tutors to teach them?
Actually, I invite the tutor from the university student.
Okay.
They come here for the volunteer, so we ask them with the topic to teach them.
Okay, so mostly taught by external tutor instead of yourself lah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So thanks for sharing, Michael. So actually, this comes to our final set of questions on the opportunity and also the challenges for our educators in homeschooling as well as tutoring in that industry. So basically, like what Michael was mentioning, like what Bernard is actually involving. So the homeschooling, or in general, tuition center, tuition classes, does come into a very important role, play a very important role in supporting or in enhancing the homeschooling industry in both Singapore and Malaysia. So there are a lot of common questions that we always being asked and always being questioned by a lot of people who are in the education industry. Sorry, for those, I do hear some of the noise. Okay, anyway, so these will be mainly the question for Bernard. Maybe some of the parents or even Dr. Ng can be elaborating more in terms of the opportunities, in terms of the chances that the current education system have actually created to the educator, to business owners in education industry. So if we're talking about the homeschooling, like Bernard has been experiencing in tutoring the homeschool children. So Bernard, how do you see the trend now, particularly in Singapore, if there's a increase in number of homeschool children? So for your point of view, for your business point of view, how do you see and how do you perceive this? Bernard?
I think that basically as an entrepreneur, you are always on the lookout for opportunities. You are always looking at ways to expand your business, grow your business. There's never a best time for any business. You are, as an entrepreneur, you should be making the best of the times. So in fact, before this webinar, I was actually having a management meeting. So we were actually discussing about what we can do, and then look at the pandemic and how it's basically affected many businesses. But yet at the same time, I think that it opens up a lot of opportunities, because now that everyone's stuck, wherever that they are, they can't travel, but thanks to technology. So, many of us here, I think we were more than 8 of us here. So we could work around, the situation and still get together, get things done and discuss. So for homeschooling, yes, it represents a market segment that I would say that prior to my experience with the kids, or rather the parents who came to us looking for specific help in certain domain expertise that we have, it didn't really quite occur to me that there's a market segment out there, for us to tap into. And then obviously now I'm more conscious, but I'm also keenly aware that the homeschooling community is a very close-knitted one, and word of mouth recommendations are key to enter the market segment and to grow as a business. So yes, homeschooling is a market segment that is attractive, but it could be challenging for any tuition center or private school, for the matter, to want to enter the that market segment, because like I said, they work pretty much by word of mouth recommendation. In fact, I've got somebody who called me last year looking at 2023. Okay, so I was like, wow, that's like really planning far ahead into the future, and I'm like, regulations change, and of course in Singapore we've got a new education minister. So when I was a union leader in 2015, I had the opportunity to meet with this minister face to face, and I asked him some questions. So in my meeting earlier, I was telling my business partners, you can expect change. Change is coming, So yeah, I mean, of course, again, well, as a business owner, we just have to adapt regardless of the change, or whatever the change, however fast the change. The one that is able to adapt and move with the times, you will survive. Yeah. So yes, opportunities are abound, but it is really up to you as the business owner to tap into the opportunities that are available.
Thank you, Bernard. So I must say, you mentioned something that most of the educators who truly agree with. That is the word of mouth, the power of word of mouth. So basically in education, we all somehow rely on the referral,
Yes.
what I call the recommendation. So that is something very, very important. And to be very honest, this is what QERA system is building on, just to let you know. Anyway, in fact, these particular questions should not be addressing too much on to Vivian and 𝐷𝒊𝒂𝒏, because they are the very exceptional parents that did not really seek for external help, because they are so capable enough. They can actually take care of their children themselves. But my question to them would be, in fact, so since you have been through the homeschool system for your children, and you have so successfully so-called developed your children into what we call very successful individual in terms of academic, in terms of their life achievement. So do you see yourself into guiding other parents and students to achieve what you have been through? So Vivian, can you share a little bit of this?
If I may share, within our homeschool community, within the homeschool community that I'm from, one of the homeschool communities at least, we have this organization called Little U. So Little U is a place where the parents come in and they share their expertise and teach what they are good at. And the teaching is not like tuition where we go by academics and we go by Singapore syllabus, but the teaching is really it's really homeschooling kind of learning, where it's game based, it could be story based, it could be role playing based, and we teach skills. It could be in languages, it could be in science, it could be in debate, and so the parents come out as teachers and they offer these classes to the community and to teach other kids as well. So we call this the Little U. And in addition to that, we also we don't just offer classes, programs and teach the kids, but we do family learning as well. So we also have classes which we have educators, like for example myself, I will come in and I will share about parenting, and I'll offer classes on parenting. I'll offer classes to help teens with managing cyber safety and things like that. So we have this like a little school where we will offer our skills. And we also invite industry leaders, people who are very successful in their fields, and we invite them as guest speakers, and they will come in and they will share their experiences about how they embarked on the journey to become successful in the fields that they're in. And these talks are open to the families, and we have families who come in and listen. The kids will be listening and knowing that, oh, this is how adults go through the journey of difficulties or triumphs and all the hurdles that they have to go through, and what success is like. So from young kids can do that. So we do offer this kind of classes to the community and
just out of curiosity, do you what is the charges? Do you, as a parents, do you charge for that? To give this kind of service and support to other parents and children?
Yes, we do get a small fee, because right now we are serving the community. So we do get a small fee to teach, and the kids or the families who sign up, they also have to pay to attend the classes.
That's come to the entrepreneurship part of it, like what Bernadette has been mentioning. So I'm sure the experienced parents will definitely be able to contribute more into this community to get through the system, and the financial reward, it has to be in place in order to keep the momentum moving, though. Anyway, and 𝐷𝒊𝒂𝒏, what was your experience in this, in terms of the so-called parental peer support and so-called the community support in this aspect?
So I'm not as experienced with this as Vivian. I need to talk to Vivian and see how I can be part of this community, because I just started homeschooling 2 years ago, and we just moved back to Singapore. But I have to say, we have been involved with nonprofits communities in Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So we do extend to the community when it comes to mental health. So our daughters have been exposed to that kind of community, and we have had the time, because we homeschool them, to be part of raising funds towards mental health. So that has been the way that we have been extended to the community. but we haven't yet worked with other parents to help the kids homeschool. It's just been part of the community with awareness.
Okay, thanks, Raquel. Very important question to Bernard, I think. So since the parents who are the best educator for the children, now they want to pass on their knowledge and experience to the other children. So as a private educator yourself, so do you see the threat or opportunity?
Basically, like what I've mentioned earlier, I think as an entrepreneur, there will always be challenges. It is really about looking for more avenues of revenue and constantly looking at how we can position ourselves to serve the market better, with our domain expertise and choice of offerings. So to me, homeschooling is definitely desirable for kids who require customized learning. Okay, of course, here we have very exceptional situation where, we have got very brilliant parents with very brilliant kids, but there are also the real, perhaps what I call a real need for those kids who struggle to keep up in school. I've got parents coming to me and the kids like basically failed everything. And I was like, oops, 4 years, and then after 10 years of education, they don't have the basic skills. And I'm like, how do you expect me to cover 10 years in 10 months time? So it can be a bit challenging. So we're actually even looking at like restructuring our program to cater to the needs of this group of students who are not able to keep up with the mainstream school program. So of course, what it also means is that because the school system may not be able to cater to them, or is structured in such a way that it doesn't make sense, where you have 4 years program, which is a lot easier, and then suddenly the 5th year you got something which is an exponential jump, so it is a struggle, it's a real struggle. And then I sometimes empathize with the students. I'm like, okay, looking at like the year 4 and the year 5, I'm like, oh gosh, this is like a huge jump, so tough, very challenging. So I think that for children who require customized learning at a pace where perhaps they are late bloomers, I've got many friends who didn't do well academically when they were in school, but today many of them have a master's degrees, and some even have a PhD, and I'm like, oops, I've only got an honors degree, that's it. So it doesn't mean that somebody who didn't do well early in their education path, would not succeed or bloom or flourish, academically at a later stage in life. So it just means that perhaps there is a need to have a slower pace, for late bloomers. So I think that yes, there is a market, but exactly how big is the market? I think I may need to do a bit more market research.
Yep. Thanks, Bernard, for all this input and sharing. So basically, I can see a very simple and immediate synergy over here. Perhaps all of us, or all the panelists over here, we can somehow, like what Bernard was saying, so there's always the segment that we can collaborate and further pursue. So we can even look at inviting Vivian and Raquel, or even the students' success case like John, the other parents like Michael, to work together to offer their expertise, their knowledge to other students and parents. So things like this. So we can always synergize together, and especially in education, like what Dr. Ng has mentioned. So this is actually a very significant, big issue that everyone, all the stakeholders, the teachers, the parents, and the students will have to work together in order to achieve a betterment for all our children or all our next generation betterment. So with that, I would like to more or less conclude our session this evening. because of the time constraint, we do not want to go into too lengthy of discussion. So we would like to invite the audience, the participants tonight to come up with their question if they do have. So for all of you, if you have any question, you may wish to request to speak out, you can actually raise your hand, including our panelists also. If you do have anything you would like to add on, please let us know, then you can just add on accordingly. And for all the other audience, so if you have any question, feel free to type out your question on our chat function, or you can request to speak out by raise up your hand. If you don't know how to raise your hand to give the response in this Zoom function, you may just type one at the chat function. So we will invite you to speak up. We do have some questions from the ground though. Bert was asking, should we promote and encourage homeschooling? Okay, so this is quite a simple and fundamental question actually that we have highlighted since from beginning. So this session is not meant for us to give our strong support or disagreement to homeschooling or not. So it is purely a sharing session for all the homeschooler who have been through the experience. So to answer your question, Bert, I must highlight, we are not in the position to promote or discourage homeschooling. So we are in the position to give an alternative or options for all kind of different educations courses available out there. So please do not have an assumption or misunderstood that we are actually wanting to promote a particular system or particular courses. We are not over here, like what I highlighted from the beginning. So we are having this open discussion or open sharing forum so that all the parents or the students or anyone who like to involve in the education industry will have a kind like a understanding on what is homeschooling is about, hearing from parents, from educators and students themselves. Okay, so I hope we have made our point clear. And before pass to Mike to Vivian, so because Doug was asking another question on how QERA, how we can actually come into to play this position. Again, I would just look to highlight within our platform, we are actually the marketplace for all the educational providers and all the educators. So basically, we believe all kind of courses were somehow beneficial to students and parents and trainees. Of course, we are talking about genuine courses over here. So we are in a position to promote all kind of learning opportunity, the equality to pass on the knowledge to everyone within the region, whole Southeast Asia. Not very much in terms of Singapore, I must say, but in fact, within Southeast Asia, there are many people, many countries who are disadvantaged for whatever reasons. So we hope we are able to offer some alternative for them to pick up all kind of opportunity to learn all kind of skills and knowledge they are entitled and they are they are desire for. Okay, yes, Vivian, you would like to say something, please?
Yeah, thank you. So I think whether we want to encourage or promote homeschooling, like you said, it's not we are not in a position to say anything because it really depends on individuals. However, I would say that since we're talking about facts and myths of homeschooling, at the end of the day, whether we choose to homeschool or we choose to send our kids to school, really, as parents, we want to ask ourselves, what does education mean? What is the end in mind we see for our children? What does it mean to say that they are educated? Like Dr. Ng was saying, 𝑽𝒊𝒗𝒊𝒂𝒓, 没有读书. What does it mean if 你有读书 what does it mean? What does being educated mean to you? Does it mean having a cert? Does it mean going to university? Or does it mean that you are resilient, that you love learning, you're curious, you know how to look for information if you need to learn something? So if we begin with the end in mind about what we want our children to be, or what it means to be educated, then whether we homeschool them or we send them to school, as parents, in our home environment, we will be able to nurture those qualities in them. And then we will be able to support whichever way, as homeschooling parents or as parents whose kids go to school, and play a part to work in partnership with the schools that our kids go to. So I think that is the basic question we need to ask ourselves, like what does education mean and what does being an educated person mean? Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Vivian. Before a further question, Adrian has anything to add on or would like to share? Anyone, if you have any questions, feel free to type out.
Yes, I would like to just add on. Of course, QERA can play a meaningful role in education, I would say. Like what Vivian say, it's not just what is education, what is the educated child. So QERA definitely can play a meaningful role in education, whether is it homeschooling or whether is it going to a regular school, or whether is it learning for oneself, improving one's knowledge, one's quality of life. This is just what I want to add.
Thank you. Any further question or any panelists would like to add on anything? Dr. Ng, Bernard, or Raquel, or even John, Michael, anything would like to add on?
If you let me have a choice,
sure.
Then I will prefer homeschool. But if you want me to live an easy life, I'll send them to school. I solve all the problems.
You just highlighted what I'm just about to say.
So homeschooling, of course, there are some very, very good points. As I will echo with Bernard, he can do the A level within 10 months, and we can do it O level within 2 years with flying colors. So with homeschooling, it's more flexible. We may not need so long of time to achieve some goal. And of course, school, like just how John was mentioned, some activities you have to join in, and you have no choice. So, but if we do not have the resources, and if we are limited, maybe send to school is the best option. And then whatever school didn't perform well, and it's our role to touch up, it's our role to go and do something to make it better. And homeschooling also have something is weak. So if we realize it, like just our parents ask about how about girlfriends? No, if all your friends you only a few, and then how? Yeah, we know our limitation. If we know when, then we will try to address it. So I think there is no good or bad. It's all depend on yourself, which is, if I need to travel, maybe homeschooling is my only option because I need to travel the whole family. But it's all depend on individual. So look at, assess yourself, whether you have the resources, and if you can, then you can choose whether homeschool or tradition school. I think both are okay as long as we know what is ultimate aim, that how we want to educate our children, not only academic but also something else. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Ng. Thank you. Raquel, you have anything would like to add on? Would like to summarize?
Yes, I think I agree with Dr. Ong that it depends on the circumstances of the family, and you shouldn't feel bad because you're sending your child to a normal school or if you're homeschooling your child. But I think if you were thinking about doing it, it's no better time because the brick and mortar schools are definitely becoming less and less, and especially with the given times. So it's a great time to do it. And I think as parents that are homeschooling, we don't feel as alien doing it because a lot of kids are being taught at home or they're doing it online. So I think if you're thinking about it, it's no better time. But if you're not, you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Great, great. Yes, thank you. So the rest of the panelists, Michael and even John, so you have anything would like to add on or to summarize? John and Michael. Michael, you would like to say something? Okay, all right. So what about John? You have anything to add on? So you are one of the very crucial panelists over here because you are the one who've been through as a status of students, you see. Yes, John.
Yeah. I think I would like to say that homeschooling, everyone has a very different and unique homeschooling experience. I can only speak so much for myself, and my experience may not be relevant to like other people or other of my friends who have homeschooled as well. But really, like the best thing is to just hear from these different homeschoolers because their experiences are so different, they're so unique and so much, and they're really so interesting. So if you want to hear more, I actually started a podcast in 2020 where we talk to different homeschoolers in Singapore. It's called the Socially Awkward Podcast. So you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. So you can really go in there, listen to all the different homeschoolers, talk about their experiences, and yeah, from there you can make your own conclusions about is homeschooling the way forward for your family, for your child.
Great, great, great. Good to know that. Thank you very much. So unless we have other further question, up to now we don't. So we would like to call end to our session this evening officially. It has been over, let me just have a look. It's been over 1.5 hours already. So we should not be going for too much of extra hours over here. So Dr. Ng would like to say something, is it?
No.
Okay, all good? Okay, okay, good. Thank you, thank you. So let's look at the audience. So we have not got any extra question from them. So once again, on behalf of QERA and our panelists, so thanks for everyone to tune in to listen to our webinar this evening. Like I highlighted, so we have actually ongoing kind of webinars and educational chat session to everyone within Southeast Asia region to enlighten and to get the industry practitioners and stakeholders to voice out their opinion and sharing to benefit all the stakeholders within the education and training industry. So my colleague in the whole Southeast Asia, so we'll be hosting and organizing all these activities for the benefits of all the stakeholders, as I said. So we have it in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, and so on. So within QERA platform, it is our strong mission and belief that to connect all the education stakeholders to benefit each other. When we say the education stakeholders, what we mean are the course providers, be it their institutional or their individual tutors or instructors, as well as students and parents, and the group of the people, what we call our affiliates, referrers, who are actually actively in promoting all kind of goodwill of education. So people like yourself, all of you. So education is very, very big and significant topic for everyone around the world. So we hope we were able to get better synergy, a strong involvement by every one of you out there to involve with us to bring a better education for younger generation. So with that, I would like to call off our session officially this evening. So good night, stay safe, stay healthy. Someone have other question? Let me just have a quick check. Quick check on the chat function. Okay, Tommy have some feedback here. Mainstream education system is more rigid and homeschooling is more flexible. So is therefore finally point out the availability result. Is there any other critical determination to consider for homeschooling?
I think just now someone already mentioned that what was probably yourself, Joseph, that you know, in order to homeschool, I think the parents need to firstly enjoy being with their kids because you're spending 24/7 with the child. You know, you can't just like drop them in school and don't see them for more than half a day. So I think it's really that the relationship between the parent and the child, I think that plays a role about whether homeschooling is going to succeed or not. Of course, that relationship can still be nurtured even if the relationship didn't start out well. But that will be one consideration, mending the relationship, parental-child relationship, that's one. And then the other thing is whether the parents are vested enough to be actively involved in either searching out resources to teach or to be the one who's doing the actual teaching. Because it's very, it takes time. It takes a lot of time from the homeschooling parent to homeschool a child, because all the responsibility is on us. We can't say, oh, the school didn't do this, the teacher didn't do that, you know, it's all the school's fault. Everything that the child doesn't do well becomes our responsibility and we have to bear everything. So whether we are able to take that level of stress. So I think guts, to be a homeschooling parent takes a lot of guts, and being able and be willing to bear the consequence of whatever, you know, good or bad outcome from homeschooling our kids.
Thank you, Vivian, for answering this question. Basically, I must highlight actually the whole session for our tonight discussion and sharing was all about the extra consideration and the factors that we need to put into picture to consider whether or not to put our children to go for homeschooling. So it's the whole topics discussion on your time commitment, whether the parents are capable enough to teach the children, and whether they are need to seek to sort for external help, and whether the children are suitable themselves, whether there will be lack of social skills and life skills and things like that. All are the big topic to put into consideration before any parents to decide whether to put their children to go for homeschooling system or not. So I think for those of you who have missed the session or who has want to go through the discussion and the sharing by all our panelists, so please go through our replay of this webinar, so you are able to understand further. And again, without further ado, I think we will have to call off this session. Otherwise, everyone will be really tired in the late night already. So once again, on behalf of QERA and our organizing committee, so thanks to my team members, thanks to all the panelists to grace this webinar. And we hope you were able to come back to us for a lot of sessions and occasions that we are going to organize for the benefits of everybody in the education and training industry. Okay, so with that, I will call off to end the session officially. So once again, thank you and stay safe, stay healthy. Good night, everyone. Take care. See you next round.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thanks all the panelists. Thanks all the audience for joining this session. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.